Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
If you love having a laugh and live in Melbourne, then head down to the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne. It's a dedicated comedy venue. Drink, eat and have fun in the Elliot Goblet Bar on the ground floor. Or head upstairs to Punchlines Comedy Club, featuring Australia's funniest professional comedians. This is Melbourne's comedy hub and it's also the home of the School of Hard Knock Knocks. So get on down to the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne.
You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Steve Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Comedian Katie Burch didn't want to work at NASA or work towards world peace. She wanted to be a comedian, and a dark comedian at that. In this, the 100th episode of the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast, host Steve Davis chats with former National Raw Comedy finalist Katie Burch about what it takes to be a successful comedian, her life in a cult, and why appealing to a woke crowd isn't great for your comedy career. Katie also highlights the importance of suffering in the creation of jokes, or at least her preferred form of cruel, dark comedy. And if you enjoy this podcast, be sure to join our Facebook group, the School of Hard Knock Knocks community, to stay abreast of upcoming courses, shows at the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne, and general advice for comedy performers. And now, here's Katie Burch.
My kids are on school holidays at the moment. They're fucking hassling me. You know, like I can't even answer the phone without someone saying, "Who's that? Can I have a pickle? How big's the sun?" They're getting really good at saying awkward shit in public. And I was at the bus stop the other day and my little boy goes, "That man looks scary." And I said, "Yeah, okay, hun. She can hear you." I don't know, like I kind of thought it was going to be easy to be a mum. You know, because junkies can do it.
Katie Burch, welcome to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
I wonder, at the time that we record this, are you drinking white wine out of a drinking bottle by any chance?
Amazingly, I'm not today because I got too smashed yesterday.
Look, I had to mention that because in getting ready for this, I did trawl around and I found some bits and pieces of yours, and you co-wrote the Parents web series, and there's a very funny scene when you are topping up a drinking bottle with white wine before a parents group meeting. It resonated because we've just come out of lockdown here in Adelaide and, you know, back to school life again. My question is about the reality that you surfaced in that writing, because your characters never felt comfortable in a parents group. I never have. Have other people told you that you've picked a scab there, you've uncovered a real truth that no one likes to acknowledge?
Yeah, I get that from a lot of drunken ladies after shows. They'll just be like, "Oh my God, I'm the same as you." And, then they want to be friends and then they're quickly disappointed with real life me.
I love the fact that you trolled that particular aspect of life, because we're jammed together for no other reason than that our kids go to the one school, and it's awkward building new relationships at the best of time, but that's sort of contrived. That must be fertile ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also when you've lived in as many shit suburbs as I have, you've met all kinds of shit other parents. I think I actually need to live in a poorer suburb in order to get along with the other parents. Like I think that's my people. I'm Penrith deep down.
I was going to ask you to name some of the shittest suburbs. That's one of them.
Oh, well, it wasn't too bad. I don't think it was bad, but maybe I'm in denial. I've lived in Doonside and Blacktown, lived in Cronulla, I've lived in Armidale. Fucking hated Armidale.
Why?
Really rich. Their houses are millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like, they're real dicks. So, like, you go to their birthday parties for their kids and they have, like, a tennis court in the backyard and they've got, like, ponies at their fucking house. My daughter's like, oh, can we have ponies at our parties? Oh, no, I don't think they'll be very fucking comfortable in our apartment.
Now, look, I did start out on The Parents, which, of course, has you in that role of the mum, and you are on the record of saying you're a comedian first and a female comedian second. What are your thoughts on how women can develop their careers without being defined by their gender?
Be funny. And then I think everyone gets over it pretty quick. But I don't know. I think lots of women start out really long-winded, and I like to just get to the point, because men don't really like to listen to us unless they get to fuck us. So you just have to get them while they're still paying attention.
There's a translatable lesson there for everyone, though, because that really is a call to arms against waffling.
Yeah, absolutely. Get to the point straight away, and then you can blather on a bit later if you want. That's important for the first couple of minutes at least, or seconds even.
I had Hung Lee on the podcast just recently, and when he first came here, really mined his Vietnamese roots to be able to say things that other comedians couldn't say. Was that ever a thing in your career, of using the gender aspect of being a woman to be able to tackle things that the blokes don't?
I think I can kind of, they'll talk about sex and be heroes or whatever. I think I can be the girl side of that, where we just pay out on them and see through their bullshit.
I find that there's a lot of guys that talk about wanking a lot in their comedy routines, which makes me just roll my eyes, because a lot of them, even if I was of that persuasion, I wouldn't want to imagine them actually being engaged in that particular act. And yet it just seems like really low-hanging fruit, probably physically as well.
Yeah, I don't mind a bit of low-hanging fruit jokes. I mean, a lot of my stuff is really crude and disgusting, but I think I'm still talking about guys wanking, right? Like, I'll still do jokes about that rather than, women doing it, because guys are too visual. So if you at least give them a dick and balls one, like, that's better for you and safer when you walk into your car later too, I think.
Well, there is that too. There's something else that I was given as a bit of background on you, that you were in a cult once. Are we allowed to know what that cult was?
It was just a Christian cult. It was the early days, You got to fuck up your life somehow in your 20s.
Did you think it's helped your comedy? Have you been able to mine that experience for comedy?
No, because a lot of the things I did, I've tried it and it just failed. But people don't believe it. They can't put Penrith with America killing a goat. That's just, they're too different. So I just went, stuff it. I'll just do kids, sex, whatever horrible things I can think of instead.
Well, I was hoping that there was some moment where the clouds opened and God came down and said to you, Katie, I need you on the stand-up stage. Not the case.
Oh, God, no.
So what was...
I was done with them both.
What did get you into stand-up? What was the thing that said, I'm going to do that?
I just turned 30 and then went... I was talking to some friends and they had like these really huge dreams. So like, I'm going to work at NASA, I'm going to, work for world peace and all that stuff. And they were like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just always wanted to try comedy. So it seemed like there was nothing stopping me as opposed to them. I had the least obstacles. All I had to do was go into the city to an open mic.
though, if you speak to some people, they'd much rather be strapped to the outside of a rocket going into the deep space than actually go up onto a stand-up stage. So,
yeah, a lot of people are really scared of it, but I don't know. My mum used to always let me take multiple friends on holidays because I'm just more comfortable in a group than I am, you know, with talking to one person, like now.
Well, I'm getting a sense coming through you of this resilient, waterproof person who can bowl up like a bowling ball to Skittles. That would be you in a group. Am I right? You're sort of... That's okay. You're in your element when you're surrounded by people or even in a group of people.
In a group, yeah, I like groups. You can hide in a group, but then when you're on stage, it's nice to control and manipulate a group. I think that's what I like about stand-up.
Young comics listening there, if your personality is sort of matching this makeup, you could have a bit of a future ahead of you, especially because you got into the national finals of Raw Comedy. Take us through what that's like, because there's a lot of people who would kill to have had that experience.
I don't know. Like, I entered, I just thought, I don't know, that's what people did. So, it was, I don't know, it's pretty much like any other gig. The cool thing was for me is I got to be on stage at the store for the state comp, and then after that, I'd never had such an enormous crowd. I think it was 1,600 or something like that. And so that, to me, was just like, fuck, if I can just perform in front of that many people. And it's a really great feeling. You have so much time to think when there's that much laughter kind of around the room.
Because it takes longer.
Yeah.
So it just takes longer.
Getting paid $181 at the end of it.
Well, there you go.
That's your prize.
That's wow. Okay, but also notoriety and fame. Did it open some doors for you, being able to have the Raw Comedy label in the mix on your bio?
It gives you something to put on a poster. Mm-hmm. So, and it can kind of get you into corporates and stuff, having some credentials.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's probably about it. It certainly didn't do anything for me with industry, I don't think. Like, nobody... I don't know. I've got too many thoughts in my head. You speak.
Well, look, there was another competition that I have to ask you about. You were the Australasian winner, Joke Nation competition in Switzerland.
Yeah, I performed there and then in Johannesburg with those guys.
Do the Swiss actually have a sense of humour? I've got them pigeonholed as the Germans.
Well, the thing is, they're French-speaking, so that gig didn't go great. But they did fly me there and put me up in 5-star accommodation, so that was cool. And they pay you for the gig. But as for the audience, like, I've had a lot better shows. And the same with Johannesburg. I'd kind of tanked as well. It was a dark show, but everybody was just kept from the previous show. They didn't know it was a dark show. And I had to, at one point, just scream at them, this is a fucking dark show, right? And then they kind of got on board. But, but there was a lot of expats at the Switzerland one. And those are the people who came up to me after the show and just went, oh, my God, so much Australia, we needed that.
Mind you, I would have thought that in Johannesburg, labelling your show a dark show might have been, maybe not the best choice of term.
Yeah, especially it was in a real white area, apparently. Oh. I don't know. I had a bodyguard. I didn't really look around.
So, look, with the competitions, there are those, but in particular Raw Comedy. When you look back, does the sort of set you do for a Raw Comedy competition, is that largely going to be different from the sort of set you do just to win the hearts and minds of people at, I don't know, the Penrith RSL, for example?
No, for me, it's pretty much the same. Like, I think if you can put a set together where you can do it not in the city, but in the suburbs, that's your best future you can have, because that's where all your gigs, once you start getting paid and everything, that's where they're going to be, is the burbs. So I don't think there's a real need to go woke and try and impress, people with mohawk in some dingy little bar in Brunswick or something. There's no real need to work on a set for that group of people. I think you got to look at, the people who live out in the boonies. They play sports. They sit on a lounge and watch telly. They've got a really good AC unit. These are the people that are the majority of Australia. So that's the set I think you should write for, and just make it funny fast. Keep it funny.
So that's the set that's going to get you the laughs and bring in the money for your long-term ability to be self-employed and to do this. What happens to those sets in those dingy little bars? Can they still work? Is there something that carries across from the unwoke, funny bone stuff that still works in the woke zone, or is there a sort of binary difference between those two?
There's a couple that are very, very extreme for that type of crowd, and I have never done well in those rooms. I don't bother with them anymore because that's not my people. But for a lot of them, yeah, I can still get on stage and talk about my kids and my husband and whatever. In those rooms, like, they still get into it even though they don't have kids. Because it's like cruel, what I'm saying. I know, gay guys always really like my cruelty.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those in the city.
Look, seeing we're talking about kids, let's just have one last family-based question. Your husband's a comedian. What happens at home? How do two comedians co-inhabit?
There's so much alcohol involved. Way too much. Chris is great. He's funny. He's funny all day. And when he's not being funny, I tell him off for boring me, and then he's immediately funny. Yeah, I really like living with another comic. You can say anything as extreme as you want and still get a laugh. Yeah, I think that's what I like. They're useless with writing together, though, so we can't help each other with writing, but we're too different.
Okay, that's my next question. Oh, so you can't write together, but you get a chance to perform 24/7, which has got to be the equivalent of going out and doing a whole lot of open mics. Surely it must help in some way.
I don't know, because I don't get laughs in this fucking joint. Because all he does... Chris is the ultimate tag writer. So anything I say, he just tags. And I go, fucking pause for laughter first, bitch. Then tag away. So I'm robbed. But yes, he gets a lot of laughs.
Well, that's you're very kind.
Lucky him.
Yes, exactly. Now, you moved recently. Did that give you some fertile content that you're going to work with?
Yeah, I think so, because for the last few years I've been pretty happy, and it's hard to write when you're happy. But after ramming Chris's fingers through different doorways and seeing the suffering and suffering myself, just lifting every fucking possession we have, I feel very deeply angry, and I've gone through a lot of stress, and I think that's always good. How sometimes you'll wish for some sort of terminal illness just to get you motivated to write, just to be like, oh, great, I've got something now. But there's just been too much joy, so this is good for me. I've been broken a bit.
Well, there's a tip. All right. If you're too happy, your writing will suffer. So moving house is one of the great tortures of life, really. There's not much. I would much rather be waterboarded than having to move house. Yeah.
It's this is a crazy month for me. It's every gig getting cancelled with lockdowns, moving house, paying fucking bond again, and scrubbing an old place, and I've got a day job at the moment. That's coming to an end because it's the end of the contracts, and it's everything is happening at the moment. So it's probably a very good time for me to pick up a pen. I should do that.
Very good. And maybe Chris could even give some token laughs, maybe, surely.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, let's finish off with something. Well, I mean, you've already dissected some elements of comedy that are really fascinating. Young people who are starting out, have a listen to the School to Hard Knock Knocks podcast. Any thoughts? If you were green again right at the beginning, a young you, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, my God. I don't know. There's no future in this.
That's bleak.
There's no future. Yeah, keep it as a hobby. Especially with COVID now. You can't fucking go anywhere. That's not a lot of hope, is it? I'm not taking a lot of hope back to younger me. I don't know. If you're just starting out, I think as hard as it is, it's at least really exciting still in the start. And so, I don't know, enjoy it, because there's going to be a point where you think, something really funny happens, I'll write it down. And then after a few years, you don't give a shit anymore. You go, no, not good enough, and you become really harsh on yourself. So I think the beauty of the beginning is that you're just so willing to try anything, and you're just mining every experience you have and every emotion you have and all that kind of stuff. And it actually makes you a better comic. Like if a comic that had been doing it for longer could have that same drive, like, I don't know, if there's a way to keep it, maybe try and keep that mining. That's maybe what I would say to myself. Just keep mining, never stop mining.
Well, I suppose COVID's helping in some way by bringing everything to a screaming halt. It's sort of got to start up again.
Yeah, I mean, COVID's been really horrible for writing, because if you're not getting, for me, if I'm not getting on stage, and I know it's the same for Chris, there's no pressure, there's no urgency to come up with something fresh. Like, I kind of like having a fire under my ass, and COVID's really wrecked that. Like, I've got a show tomorrow night, probably, but because I don't know if it's on yet, I've done nothing to prepare. But once I know it's on, I'll be like, oh, fuck, and I'll just start getting my shit together.
There you go. Wow. Katie, thanks. This has been quite a frank discussion. I love it. And I hope to actually be in the audience when I'm allowed to one day to actually witness that in the most unwokest suburb you could possibly imagine. To hear you on full throttle, I think that'd be really good. So thank you for taking some time out. Really appreciate it.
Yep, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.